right there.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the December 9th meeting of the Memphis and Shelby County Land Use Control Board. My name is Mary W. Sharp, and I will be serving as your chairperson today. We will begin this morning's meeting with a roll call. Mr. Whitehead, would you proceed, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Fleming. Here. Ms. O'Connell. Here. Dr. Pritchard.
Here.
Mr. Thomas.
Here.
Mr. Tolles.
Here.
Ms. Wilbanks.
Here.
Mr. Rainey.
Here.
Chair Sharp.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Whitehead. I would like to remind you that copies of today's agenda are located at the back of the room if you need them. If you wish to be a speaker on any case that is on today's agenda, please fill out an attendant speaker's card. Once you have filled out the card, please bring it up front and hand it to one of our OPD staff members located in the front of the chamber below the podium desk. When that agenda item is called, you will be given an opportunity to speak. At this point, I would like to read our conflict of interest statement. The adopted policy of the Land Use Control Board requires that any member of the board recuse himself or herself from any participation in the discussion or voting on any matter on the meeting's agenda in which he or she may have direct or indirect personal interest. The member shall vacate his or her seat during deliberation on any matter from which they have recused themselves. An abstention may substitute for recusal for the purposes of maintaining a quorum. I would like to now get approval of our minutes from the last meeting.
I so moved, Madam Chair.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we? Okay, I have a second. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, nay. Motion carries. Okay, we will now have a presentation or remarks from our director, Mr. Zena.
Thank you. All right, good morning, members of the board. John Zena, Director of the Division of Planning and Development. In a few of my previous reports, I've kept you up to speed about some of the planning that our comprehensive planning department is doing, particularly small area planning related to the city's Accelerate Memphis initiative. Just for a reminder, context, the city earlier this year issued $200 million in bonds to implement improvements in neighborhoods and parks throughout the city. Much of that money is going towards implementing recommendations that were in our Memphis 3.0 comprehensive plan in neighborhoods throughout the city. There are a few different types of investments that are being made to activate Memphis 3.0. The first of which that we began working on were large-scale improvements, roughly $4 to $4.5 million in 9 different areas throughout the city. And I've mentioned that before that one of the first steps to taking on that work was to conduct small area plans, working with the neighborhood to determine the types of improvements that would best catalyze new activity in those neighborhoods. I won't go through each one of those 9 one by one, but I did just want to show you, as well as the public, that on the Memphis 3.0 website, if you go to the tab that says projects and scroll down, you'll see that each one of the small area plans that the department has been working on has its own button here, and if you were to click one of these, let's choose South City, for example, there's a link to each one of the small area plans. So I encourage the public to view these in terms of the timeline of work. All of the areas that we're working in terms of the large-scale investments are now being surveyed, and we'll be moving into design for various improvements in these areas. So you can click on each small area plan, and within it there are a number of recommendations and ideas about the small area and the project area, but then each one also has, if I can. Each one also shows graphical illustrations of different types of community improvements that are proposed for the areas. So again, I encourage you to take a look at that in each one of those areas, and certainly let me know if you have any feedback or questions on those. One area that I did also want to mention that we are working is the innovation corridor, the area along, that connects downtown Memphis to the University of Memphis, primarily along Union Avenue, where the city and MATA are planning a new bus rapid transit program that service that would be available beginning in 2026. We have also been working as a division on a transit-oriented development plan so that we can plan for and concentrate development activity around the station areas. Bus rapid transit is more rapid than any other transit product that we have right now on the streets in Memphis. It behaves in a similar to fashion as light rail in that you have buses running every 10 minutes, you have platforms, level boarding, but of course it's buses and not light rail cars, which means they're a little bit more flexible and obviously a lot less expensive to be able to install. So, but it's still an investment in transit and higher frequency transit, and obviously transit-oriented development is anticipated to follow. We expect to complete this plan at the end of this month, and we would like to come and do a little bit more of a presentation on the findings of that plan because there are some implications for the UDC, for the overlays, particularly the medical district, Midtown, and the university area, all three of those overlays being affected here. So we'd like to give you a little bit more information about this plan once it's completed, so that you're informed on that going into any discussions in the future about changes to the UDC. Finally, all of these plans will be adopted into the Memphis 3.0 plan through our annual amendment that we've done. We've done one last year. We plan to bring another to you in February. So that is all in terms of my updates on our work, but I'm not going to relinquish the microphone just yet until I begin with being what Mr. Whitehead, I think, described as schmaltzy. I want to just thank Josh Whitehead for his 11 years of service to Memphis, to Shelby County, to planning and development, to this board and other boards that he has served in his time. Obviously, the quality of the development that we have seen in Memphis and Shelby County has improved greatly over the last several years. And Mr. Whitehead, I believe that you are a big part of that. And obviously, your leadership in not only guiding this board, the Board of Adjustment, City Council, the County Commission, in ensuring that we achieve that quality, I think is a legacy that you will leave as you exit this position. But I also just want to comment, too, that maybe behind the scenes, and you've seen this, but Mr. Whitehead has done an outstanding job in building a great staff that he leaves behind. And so I have no concerns whatsoever that quality will continue to be upheld in our community even after Mr. Whitehead is gone because of the work that he has done building the staff here. So thank you, Josh, for all that you've done, and we look forward to working with you on the other side. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Zena. Mr. Whitehead, may I please get a secretary's report for this month and an explanation of today's procedures?
Yes, ma'am. I'll divide my portion of this agenda into three parts. The first being an update from cases we've heard over the last few months. The second being our annual report, the actual time of the year I do give a secretary's report, and then finally the procedures. So first, on the updates, if you recall, we sent two cases recently to the County Commission, Land Use Matters in Unincorporated Shelby County. And on both of those, there was a mismatch between staff recommendation and Land Use Control Board recommendation. The gas station on Singleton Parkway, staff recommended rejection, the board recommended approval, and the single-family development at Forest Hill, Irene, and Shelby, the reverse was true. Staff recommended approval, the Land Use Control Board voted it down. Well, at the County Commission, staff is 2, and the Land Use Control Board is zip. The County Commission rejected the gas station and approved that development on Forest Hill, Irene. In this chamber, City Council, there were 2 updates Tuesday. One being the gas station at Broad and Tillman. If you recall, it was heard by this body some time ago. It was reviewed by the City Council 3 weeks ago. They turned it down on a 6-6 vote. During their consideration of their minutes, they pulled it off the minutes, and they're going to reconsider it in January, so stay tuned on that one. And finally, the old police precinct on Union was withdrawn, so it will come back to you. There's some disputes over the condition, I think, that Mr. Fleming attempted to address but couldn't get a second. So I think that might be the core of the discussion when it comes back to you. Now, annual report. I did this a month early to save Mr. Ragsdale from at least one duty in January. And of course, this is organized like it is each year. We mention attendance, and this year, Ms. Wilbanks, Mr. Tolles, Dr. Pritchard, and Madam Chair get the gold stars, perfect attendance. By the way, I've had 0 sick days in 11 years, so I'm giving myself a gold star. Let's see, then the next category is caseload. We had 150 cases during calendar year 21. I have a table at the bottom. A few of you remember the late 90s and early 2000s where we had a substantially greater number of cases, but we've kind of plateaued, and actually this last year at 150, it's one of our more robust years in the immediate past. Category number 3 is deals with the significant cases, and I won't go through this, but we had number 1, I went to CBU back almost 30 years ago, and their master plan showed a northeastern expansion. Well, finally, this year, many years later, that expansion is coming to fruition. That's item number 1. Item 2 and 4, the creation of a couple new landmarks districts. I guess if there's one other theme, we've had a substantial amount of investment in Whitehaven. I guess if there's one other high point in the last year, I would include that. Finally, item number 4, staff. Ms. Shoup Diggs resigned from her position as municipal planner about a month ago, so maybe one more thing I'll do to save Mr. Ragsdale is help interview the prospective candidates. That closes Friday for that position. We're also hiring some zoning examiners who will take some of the day-to-day zoning letter and customer assistance duties off of our municipal planners so they can focus on these reports that they disseminate to you and the Board of Adjustment and the Land Use Control Board. That also is, one position is open now. There will be a second one in early calendar year 2022. But perhaps more significant than these nameless, faceless, and unfilled positions is a filled position. We added a preservation planner. So now the Landmarks Commission will have 2 dedicated staff personnel, and that second position was just filled this week by Margot Payne, who I asked to join us. I think we're going to start seeing a little more cross duties where maybe the landmark staff, if there's a case particularly in the landmarks district, that needs land use control board review, let's assign it to one case manager who will do the report to this body and the Landmarks Commission and vice versa. So you'll probably see Ms. Payne throughout the year. She comes to you with a master's degree in historic preservation from Tulane, and she's also had extensive professional work here in Memphis in the field of preservation. And she sits on a state board with the SHPO's office, State Historic Preservation Officer. With that, Madam Chair, now we're ready for the procedure for this morning. At the beginning of today's meeting, we will establish a consent calendar for those items where no one in the audience or on the board is requesting an individual hearing. If you are an applicant in the audience and have an issue with a condition of approval, then you would want to pull your case off of consent. Otherwise, the conditions of approval will be approved by the body on the consent calendar. After the consent calendar is established and approved, we move on to the regular calendar. And for each of those items heard on the regular calendar, OPD staff, excuse me, this is an old script, DPD staff will give a presentation followed by the applicant, who will have a 10-minute period to give his or her presentation, followed by a 10-minute period for the opposition, and finally a 3-minute rebuttal period by the applicant. These times do not include Q&A between members of the dais and those providing testimony. At the end of all the presentations and after all the parties have been heard, the body will then make a motion to approve. And once that is done, the public hearing is closed. And if any additional testimony is needed, we reopen the public hearing by a 2/3 vote, and then the chair will guarantee that both sides are given an equal amount of time at that second public hearing. Again, if any member of the audience wishes to provide testimony, there's speakers cards at the front, and then there's one final opportunity as Ms. Wilbanks goes through the consent calendar and you failed to fill out a card, flail your hands, and we will consider that as a please remove my item from the consent agenda. So with that said, Ms. Wilbanks, I believe with 2 exceptions, all items on the agenda are eligible for the consent calendar. The 2 exceptions are number 6, where we need to change the recommendation from an approval to a hold for 1 month. So it would still be on consent, just not as written in the agenda. And we do have a card on number 12. So we will hear number 12, and we will change number 6 to a consent as a hold. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Whitehead. The board is a supporter of community involvement, and we welcome neighborhood comments and feedback. We are respectful of the fact that many of you have taken off work or adjusted your schedules to be here today, but we ask that your comments be made within the time frame allowed. If there are multiple speakers, please try not to be repetitive so as to make the most of your side's 10-minute time limitation. Lastly, I'd like to ask you to silence your cell phones so as to not interrupt or disturb anyone during today's proceedings. With that being said, we'll now move to the consent agenda. With our procedures now explained, I would like to introduce to my right Ms. Lisa Wilbanks, who will be this morning's consent agenda chairperson. Ms. Wilbanks will read items 1 through 12 as the consent agenda, whichever ones are on. Once the consent agenda is read, if you wish to discuss one of these items individually, please come forward and give us the item number, and we will pull that case. We will then vote on the remaining consent agenda items as one vote, and following the vote, we will hear the cases that were pulled individually. Ms. Wilbanks, would you proceed, please?
Yes, ma'am. Item number 1, case MJR 21-44 on Mud Island. The request is a modification to reduce the rear setback at 65 Riverwalk Place. Staff recommendation is hold for 1 month. Item number 2, case MJR 21-45 in Southwind adjacent. The request is a major modification to permit an apartment complex at 3581 Tournament Drive South and 2 adjacent parcels. Staff recommendation is hold for 1 month. Item number 3, case MJR 21-47 in Hillshire. The request is a site plan review to allow accessory parking in Area H of the Appling I-40 Northwest PD 99-315 for Ajax Distributing Company at the western terminus of Murray Farms Road. Staff recommendation is approval with the site plan conditions. Item number 4, case S21-39 in Cherokee. The request is a 31-lot major subdivision at 3329 Barron Avenue and an adjacent parcel. Staff recommendation is approval with one condition. Item number 5, case S21-42 in East Memphis. The request is a 2-lot major subdivision on the east side of Highland, south of Walnut Grove. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Item number 6, case S21-46 in Southeast Shelby County. The request is a 2-lot major subdivision at 8199 Holmes Road. Staff recommendation is hold for 1 month. Item number 7, case PD 21-36 in Capelville. The request is a truck stop and retail building at the northwest corner of Getwell and Holmes. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Item number 8, case PD 21-40 in Raleigh. The request is a planned development to allow OG district land uses, including a medical office development at 3068 and 3074 Covington Pike. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Item number 9, case PD 21-41 in Raleigh. The request is a 92-lot development at 3996 Old Covington Pike, previously approved as PD 00-327. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Item number 10, case SUP 21-31 in Hickory Hill. The request is commercial parking on the south side of Winchester, west of Riverdale Road. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions.
Madam.
Is item number 11 been pulled?
Well, I was going to tell you, item number 11, we communicated to the known opposition that the applicant would request a hold, period. So I think we need to change 11 to a 1-month hold.
Okay. Item number 11, case SUP 21-32 in Whitehaven. The request is to convert the existing hotel at 3265 Elvis Presley Boulevard into an apartment complex. Staff recommendation is a hold. That is our consent agenda.
Thank you so much. The items on the consent agenda will now be voted on with 1 vote, subject to the recommendation of OPD. If the consent agenda is approved, only item number 12 will have a full independent public hearing. By voting on the consent agenda, each board member is affirming that he or she has read the staff report and agrees with its findings, and where applicable, its recommended conditions. Can I get a motion, please?
Yes, ma'am. Move to approve item number 1, case MJR 21-44. Item number 2, case MJR 21-45. Item number 3, case MJR 21-47. Item number 4, case S21-39. Item number 5, case S21-42. Item number 6, case S21-46. Item number 7, case PD 21-36. Item number 8, case PD 21-40. Item number 9, case PD 21-41. Item number 10, case SUP 21-31. And item number 11, case SUP 21-32.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion that has been seconded. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I assume we're ready to vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go to Dr. Pritchard on our regular agenda. So, Dr. Pritchard.
We will go to agenda item number 12, SUP 21-33 Cherokee, light manufacturing of metal products at 3050 Lamar. Staff recommendation is hold or approval?
Approval.
Approval with conditions.
Okay. Is the applicant present?
Yes, ma'am. Cindy Reeves, SR Consulting, 5909 Shelby Oaks Drive, Suite 200.
Thank you. We're ready for a staff presentation.
Good morning, everybody.
Good
Brett
morning.
Davis, Division of Planning and Development. I'll be presenting our sole full hearing today. It's case number SUP 21-33. This is a special use permit request that will go to City Council for final approval to allow the light manufacture of metal products. Some general information. The parcel is addressed 3050 Lamar. The owner is the estate of Glenn Floyd. The applicant today is Twisted Dimensions Incorporated, represented by Ms. Reeves. The site has an area of ½ an acre and is zoned commercial mixed use 1. So it's on Lamar, just inside the loop. This is a map of all properties that received notice. And here is a zoning map. So we see that it's hard to see on your screen, but the Lamar corridor is zoned CMU1, thanks to a comprehensive rezoning that this body considered last year, which changed the zoning of this parcel from CMU3 to CMU1. Under CMU3 zoning, the proposed use would have been allowed by right, whereas in CMU1, light manufacturing requires a special use permit. Oops, sorry. Here's a land use map reflecting its current industrial use on a mostly commercial corridor with some multifamily and single-family residential in the area, and some photographs of the site. So here is the existing prefab warehouse, which would be reused, as well as a view northwest down Lamar. I believe our conditions require bringing certain features of the site into conformance with our present standards, including engineering standards. So these curb cuts might need to be rebuilt to meet present standards. And this sign, if it's over 10 feet and within 10 feet of the property line, also might need to be removed or changed to meet our present sign standards. Here's a view of both side yards. So we see some loading capabilities, and our only other condition requires the removal of chain link fencing, again, to bring the site into conformance with present fencing standards. There are no proposed changes to the site on plan view, nor is staff requesting a revised site plan. So, in conclusion, no site improvements are proposed, nor is a site plan review required. We do find that this is consistent with the intent of the UDC and with the general plan, as well as the character of the neighborhood. And I have reviewed the conditions already, so bring the site into conformance essentially and provide evidence that that has been done before or alongside your application for a certificate of occupancy. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the staff at this time? Okay, hearing none, we're ready for your presentation, Ms. Reeves.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We're excited to bring this project to the Lamar corridor. This is for Twisted Dimensions. When Lamar was widened further south, their original facility was taken by the state, so they had been looking for a new facility. The Floyd Fire Extinguisher building's been vacant for a very long time, and we feel that we're going to make a major improvement for that area, and hopefully it will start making other improvements in the area. I know that there's been a lot of movement going on in the Lamar corridor, and we also had talked with Councilmember Jamita Swearingen, and she was very excited that Twisted Dimensions was going to go in this location. I would like to save a lot of my time for rebuttal because I'm really not sure. Maybe it's just a misunderstanding of what Twisted Dimensions does. They are more of a custom-made curtain rod, ironwork kind of business. I don't know if any of y'all have already heard of them or worked with them, but they work with a lot of interior decorators, but they deal with a lot of ironwork. So it was considered like manufacturing, but we appreciate your patience and your attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I have one card for opposition. Mr. Belenky.
Good morning. My name is Charles Belenky. My address is 995 Eccles Street. I reviewed this application and I have concerns because it's not specific enough as to what activities are going to be undertaking under the phrase light. This could be some sort of a forge. They could be using alloys. They could be creating toxic emissions. There's really no way to tell. From the application, I'm sure their product is lovely, and from the name, I presume that mostly what they do is they twist metal, but they may be doing other activities, or at least this application may approve other activities. I'm also concerned because no response was received from the health department, and they would be the ones to look into the question of emissions. Another concern besides how they're manufacturing the metal is the coating process. Oftentimes, with plating or with other types of coatings, you use organic solvents, and those can create air pollution issues. I live downwind from this, and so I have a certain amount of concern about those things. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to address the board. Happy holidays.
Thank you. Reeves?
I'm going to also introduce David Doss, who is the owner of Twisted Dimensions, and let him explain that I think that maybe some of the concerns that our opposition has may not be necessary.
Okay, thank you. Give us your name and address.
I'm David Doss. I live at 920 Hewlett Drive in Rossville, Tennessee. And I've had Twisted Dimensions. We started in the 90s, so we've been in business over 32 years. And as Cindy explained, we were between Holmes Road and Shelby Drive on Lamar, but when the road was widened, the state took the building. But we're a custom iron shop, and we work with decorators, architects, make custom tables, beds, curtain rods, items that a customer can't find, and they would come to us to have it custom made. We usually we bend most of the metal cold. The gentleman was asking about, what we do as far as making the products. It's usually bent cold. We spend about 80% of the time bending metal and forming the product, and then we weld it together. If anything ever has to be powder coated, which none of our stuff really has to be powder coated, but we've always taken it down to Rick's powder coating on Democrat. It's nothing we would do there. Our curtain rods, we use canned spray paint, and and like I said, we've been in business over 30 years, and we never had any problems with the health department or any other code issues the whole time we were on Lamar previously. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is there any questions from anyone right now from the opposition and or the applicant? Are there any questions? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close the public portion of the meeting. Dr. Pritchard.
Move approval of agenda item number 12, SUP 21-33, Cherokee.
Second.
Okay. I have a second. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I assume we're ready to vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Do we have any other announcements this morning, Mr.? Nothing? I can't talk slowly so that we can be here till. Okay. All right. So hearing nothing else,
That's what I figured.
we're going to adjourn the meeting. And this is a record.